If I had to try and pin down why I like to go fishing, I think the real primary reason is that I never know what to expect. Much of our life is almost scripted. You know, we're driving in traffic in the morning, going back in the afternoon, and the workplace is the workplace. But when you get out in the water, you just don't know what's going to happen. I think that's the biggest appeal of all. And of course, there's always the chance to catch, you may catch fish of a lifetime on any given day.
What drives fish to move is hunger, for the most part. The fish will follow the bait. Where the bait moves, the predators will follow. It's that simple. So you really have to look at what makes the bait move. And what makes the bait move, obviously, is hunger as well. Food, plankton, microorganisms, and this is all dependent on time of the year, photo period, how much sunlight is entering the water, what the plants on the bottom are doing. So what drives fish to migrate is the bait and the time of the year and the weather.
Imagine you live in the Northeast, but you take your kids to Florida for spring break every year. That's a good example of a planned migration. You go to the same place and about the same time every year. But now think about it, if the weather on I-95 is great, you may stop and see the sights along the way. But if the weather is bad, if it's cold and rainy, you're more than likely you're going to drive straight to Florida. Now let's also say for some reason all the restaurants were closed. You're not going to be able to stop along the way, you're just going to drive straight through. So really that's a good analogy as to how game fish tend to migrate and how planned migration can be affected by outside factors to affect the timing of certain species.
Cobia are in a family by themselves, literally. There's only one species in the family, and that's the cobia. It's found worldwide, with a couple exceptions. It's not found in the Eastern Pacific. No one knows why. They grow to well over 100 pounds. A very popular fish throughout their range. They're great game fish.
They're after it. They're coming. On, get them.
Cobia do tend to migrate throughout the region. They tend to move in the spring and in the fall, although a lot of them, especially in an area like the Central Florida Keys, they'll stick around in the winter.
That was an exceptional day in my eyes. That's a fantastic show of how it can be when you're at the right place and you've got some fish that are willing to cooperate, and I think that we really were able to capture that.
Tarpon as a species are about as spectacular a catch as you can make. Because they're available inshore in shallow water, because they eat a variety of baits from dead bait on the bottom in a channel to live baits drifted in front of a school to a well-placed fly on remote flats. Boca Grande is only one spot along the Florida coast, the Gulf Coast, where the tarpon appear. It happens to have some particular characteristics that lend themselves well to interception by anglers. The tarpon migration actually begins early in the year. We get a weather break ordinarily in February of unseasonably warm weather. And if you're a tarpon fisherman, you know that when that happens, the fish will show up more than likely.
Got him. He's gonna jump, he's gonna jump. Beautiful, beautiful jump. That's a beautiful tarpon jump there. Now we gotta see if she's gonna roll over. This is a fish I've been chasing all my life. I started really hard tarpon fishing at 22 years of age. Grab that leader, steer it to you, grab the bottom jaw, lock it with everything you got. All right, we're gonna release a nice 140, 150-pound fish.
A wide variety of fisheries requires a wide variety of gear. One boat that can do it all. The 26 Hybrid is Yellowfin's most versatile design yet. For power, twin 4-stroke Mercury 200s, the outboard of choice. Simrad's NSS 12 Evo 3 has structure scan 3D imaging and sounder with chirp technology. For rough, rugged, leak-proof and long-lasting, it's Yeti and nothing else. Penn has the best in heavy and light tackle for success in any situation. Costa has been making sunglasses specifically for the saltwater angler for 30 years. A custom fiberglass replica by King Sailfish Release Mounts captures your trophy catch down to the finest detail.
What stands out most to me about Tropic Star is the fact that it's so remote and such a special situation. Tropic Star sits on a bay that's 100 miles from the nearest road. The only access is by boat or by airplane. The fact that someone built that at one time and that it's maintained itself for so long is pretty remarkable. The captains there, because they're 100 miles into the Darien jungle, they understand the ebb and the flow of the natural cycles, of the weather, of the currents in the ocean. It's a very special place for a number of reasons that all come together in that particular resort.
One of the special things about Tropic Star Lodge is their fleet of boats have all been completely restored. It's amazing to go all the way to Panama and fish on such an iconic fleet of boats like the 31 Bertram. Sailfish are among the top billfish species for a couple of good reasons. Number one, they're one of the fastest fish in the ocean. So when you have a sailfish on light tackle, they're going to rip off a couple of 100 yards of line in just a heartbeat.
These stories about the good old days. Well, I don't want the good old days to be the same for my kids. I tell them about all these giant fish and they don't get to catch them. So my whole thing is catch and release. It's about respect. Respect the ocean, respect the fish that we're catching, and have respect for the future generations.
The fish in Cabin Bluff in Georgia, they are connected to the same fish. They are the same fish for the most part in the more southern reaches in Florida in the spring. These fish are on their way back north, and they come into the inshore waters, and they're feeding in the estuaries and in the creek mouths. There's an abundant food supply there, and tarpon can live in a wide range of habitat types. They'll take clean salt water, they'll take almost completely fresh water. So the estuaries in Georgia provide an opportunity for live baiting on fish that are moving north towards the end of their migration.
Got a poon, gentlemen. Tarpon. Yeah, that's a pretty good fish, too. Woo!
Venice is, in a lump sum, the heart of what we call sportsman's paradise. It has a lot to offer because it's the end of the river and the beginning of the Gulf. There's two ends of the world, end of one world and the beginning of another.
Venice, Louisiana is sort of our Australia in terms of the fishing opportunities, number of species, and the potential for action there. The oil rigs off Venice, which are huge, they're considered essentially fish aggregating devices or fads because they do aggregate the fish, but why? The reason is, in part, is because that area of the Gulf doesn't have a whole lot of structure on its own. And all of a sudden, out in the middle of nowhere, you get this gigantic island, as it were, of metal and concrete, and almost immediately, small fish start coming in, corals start building, so of course it's a mecca for predators like yellowfin tuna.
This year it's all been on the shelf. You know, most of the rigs that go down to the bottom, 1,000-foot depths, a lot of times you got to match the hatch. Whatever they're feeding on out there, you need to have. But it's amazing how the rig is just an entire ecosystem. Been having to really entice them up. A lot of times they're sitting down about 150, 200 foot, so we actually get about 20, 30 baits in a bucket. We dump them out behind the boat, give it a little prop thrust, kind of blow the bait out, kind of keep it from chasing the boat. Throw our live baits with hooks on them out. Sometimes it's just like clockwork, and all of a sudden the tuna come up and they go in bananas.
Yellowfin tuna are one of the most popular game fish. They're caught worldwide and they're sought worldwide.
Typically the best fishing is in the spring and the fall, and that coincides with the mullet migration, which are a finger mullet, and that's every fish's favorite food. It's just a juvenile size bait fish. When everything does line up, and you know the giant snook you're biting and the tarpon, and you've got these just swarms and swarms and swarms of migrating bait fish that are being pushed by these storm systems, it's kind of adventure fishing. It's not the typical relaxing fishing that most people are accustomed to.
Good one, Jess. That's awesome.
So pretty.
Big snook.
Whoa, check him out. Oh, he's a giant.
There are certain places that are just fishy. I mean, there's great fishing inshore, near shore, and offshore. Venice, Louisiana, the Florida Keys comes to mind, and I definitely would put North Carolina's Crystal Coast in that same category. If you're planning a trip there, you better hit the gym and eat your Wheaties because you're gonna be fighting fish right and left. Inshore, there's redfish, flounder, trout. You've got cobia that run the beaches, and then you have a load of offshore options. You've got yellowfin and blackfin tuna, there's sailfish, there's white marlin, there's blue marlin, and probably the best wahoo fishing in the country.
Oh yeah, it's a nice one.
Wahoo to me are just impressive predators. They got that look, the purple stripes, slender. They look like the tigers of the ocean, and in a way they sort of are. Their jaws are just lined with ultra-sharp teeth that are designed to either kill or maim their prey during that initial high-speed attack, and I mean high speed. There's a reason why people call them the striped torpedoes.
Cabo San Lucas is definitely one of the top billfish destinations in the world. It's one that I've been fortunate to fish a number of times. Part of it is the location. It sits right on the boundary of the Pacific Ocean on one side and the Sea of Cortez on the other. You've almost always got excellent fishing because of the location. Blue marlin, black marlin, almost always striped marlin, sailfish, giant tunas. The destination is wonderful in terms of the weather. The nightlife is outstanding. It's easy to travel to. Really, Cabo is one of the top 5 billfish destinations in the world. Striped marlin are one of my favorite billfish species. They're not one of the largest. They're kind of in the middleweight class as far as size, but they're outstanding opponents on light tackle. For 20 to 30 pound test gear, they're amazing fish. I grew up in a sport fishing family in eastern North Carolina. We did all kinds of fishing, but the blue water was always at the top of the pinnacle. I remember standing on the docks when my father was out marlin fishing with his friends when I was too young to go, and waiting for the boats to come back in. My mother was actually the one that explained the purpose of the flags, where you would fly release flags at the end of the day. It was always a big hoot to stand on the docks and wait for Dad to come in and see if they were flying any billfish flags to signify that they had a great day on the water. I grew up thinking that marlin fishing was just about the coolest thing you could do.
As a kid, I used to, of course, read all the fishing magazines, and I used to dream about ways that I could implement some of the tactics. One of the first things that I did in junior high school is I put rod holders in the back of my bike. I put a couple of PVC tubes, and I would just ride around different bridges where I grew up, fishing different types of structure, whether it be the bridge pilings or docks and whatnot.
What fuels my passion for fishing? I don't know. It's been with me a long time, since before I had a lot of awareness that I was even being fueled by it. It's a chance to be in nature, to be involved in natural cycles that we're far removed from in our day-to-day life. You enter into a set of systems that used to run in our blood and are still somewhere there inside us, and you begin to try to figure out how to have success. It's a very fulfilling way to look at the natural world and look at my own place in life.
Now you know things will never be the same again. I will change your life and keep you warm, and we'll live forever in our home, sweet home. Change your life and keep you warm, and we'll live forever in our home, sweet home.
All right.